The MLS salary cap. A salary cap is defined as the upper limit on the amount of money that employees in a particular company or industry can be paid. In the realm of sports, it is further defined as the limit on the amount of money the salaries of all the players on the team can add up to. Now, the driving force behind salary caps in sports is twofold. Firstly, it helps keep the costs of teams down. Second, and most importantly, by limiting the amount of money a team can spend on players, the league will become more competitive, as wealthier teams cannot dominate the player market over a less wealthy team. There are two types of salary caps in sports, the soft cap and the hard cap. A hard cap means that the limit on the amount of money allowed for player salaries may not be exceeded for any reason. A failure to abide by this cap could result in major punishments for the team. This is used by leagues such as the NFL and the NHL. The soft cap, on the other hand, is a limit that is allowed to be surpassed in certain circumstances, meaning that there are fewer penalties for the team exceeding the cap. This is used by the MLB, NBA, and the MLS. The MLS's structure is a little weird. The MLS is made up of 28 teams. This is the only normal part. Where it gets weird is that it is a single entity league, meaning that every team in the MLS is owned by the MLS, with team owners actually buying a share of the MLS itself. Now, when a player signs a contract, he is not actually signing the contract with the team, but rather he is signing the contract with the MLS. Unless they are considered a designated player, they are not allowed to choose which team they want to play for. Rather, they are allocated to a team by the MLS. In the MLS, there are multiple rules restricting the money that can be spent both within and over the cap. The soft cap for the 2022 season is $4.9 million. There are 30 roster spots available for each team. Of these 30 spots, 20 of them are allowed for senior players. These are the players' salaries that count towards the cap. When you average out the money among these 20 players, the player salaries come out to $245,000 per player. The maximum salary allowed for a single player is $612,500. Of the 20 roster spots, the MLS allows 3 of those players to be what is known as a designated player. Essentially, if that player's salary exceeds $612,500 maximum, the rest of the salary is covered by the team. Why is this a problem, you may ask? It's a problem because of the player market. With American leagues such as baseball with the MLB, ice hockey with the NHL, and American football with the NFL, there is no international competitive player market, meaning that these leagues can employ a salary cap without worry of losing best players to the other leagues. For soccer, however, there are many different leagues around the world, all of them vying for top talent. Now, only 2 of these leagues have a salary cap, the MLS and the A-League in Australia. Because of this, most teams around the world are able to offer players much larger salaries compared to the salaries that the MLS can offer. When a player is offered a contract worth tens of millions of dollars by a team in, say, the Premier League, versus a contract worth $1 or $2 million by the MLS, they're going to choose the team in the Premier League. This inability to offer large contracts causes top players in the US to leave for other leagues because they can get paid much more substantial salaries. Players such as Christian Pulisic, Weston McKennie, and Gio Reyna, who have all signed for teams such as Chelsea, Juventus, and Borussia Dortmund in Europe. This inability to offer large contracts also creates a negative image for the league, even causing it to be referred to as the retirement league. This is viewed as a retirement league because the only time a star player comes to the MLS is when their career is ending and bigger clubs around the world have lost interest in them. For example, David Beckham, who spent most of the end of his career in the MLS. Or Frank Lampard, Steven Gerrard, or Thierry Henry, who have all ended their careers in the MLS. The salary cap in place in the MLS does nothing but prevent the quality of the league from growing. Now, any proponent of a salary cap in sports will most likely say that the reason they are good is that they increase competitiveness within the league. This, however, is not the case. In his thesis at Duke University, Grant Shorin analyzed the effect that total team payroll had on the team's success in a season over a variety of sports in the U.S. He found that teams who spend more money tend to perform greater in the regular season. In other words, leagues without a salary cap should be more competitive as the teams are allowed to spend more money on their players. This can be seen when comparing the MLS to the Premier League. In order to win the MLS Cup, a team has to win the postseason tournament, meaning that as long as they qualify for the playoffs, their success in the regular season does not matter. In the Premier League, however, a team's success is based solely on their performance in the season, as in order to win the league, you have to have the most points during the season. Since the MLS's inception in 1996, there have been 14 different teams that have won the MLS Cup. That is 14 teams in 25 years. Compare that to the Premier League, which was established in 1992, there have only been 7 teams to lift the trophy. Manchester United, Blackburn Rovers, Arsenal, Chelsea, Manchester City, Leicester City, and Liverpool. Based on this, the MLS is an easier league to win, therefore it is less competitive. Now, not only does the salary cap affect the quality of the league, it also affects the players' performance too. There are 2 economic theories of salary inequality, the theory of tournaments and the cohesion theory. In the theory of tournaments, greater salary inequality is said to equal greater productivity, whereas in the cohesion theory, greater salary equality is said to lead to greater productivity. Now, in a study published in the Journal of Sports Economics in 2016 on the impact of designated players in the MLS, Dennis Coates, Bernd Frick, and Todd Jewell looked at the production of players on the team in relation to the salary structure. They analyzed the league to see which economic theory it fell into, and concluded that the present study provides support for the cohesion theory. Based on this, a salary cap is indeed needed, because if the players' salaries are kept the same, they will perform better. But the MLS's salary cap does the exact opposite. If you remember back to the beginning of this video, each of the 20 senior players on the team should be making $245,000 a year. Compare this with the average salary of a Premier League player, which is $3.97 million. Now, if the team in the MLS has all 3 of their designated player spots filled, that means that there is only $3,062,500 to divide between the rest of the players. That is an average of $180,147 per player, if it is split up evenly. Not only is this far below the salaries of other leagues around the world, but it is also far below the salaries of their fellow DP teammates, who often make multiple $million a year. You may be wondering about the other 10 players who don't count towards the salary cap. Those players have even harsher salary restrictions and normally do not make above $100,000. The restrictions put in place by the MLS's salary cap do not create salary equality in any way. If the MLS truly conforms to the cohesion theory, this means that there is a greater salary inequality, which leads to less productivity from the team. The salary cap is doing nothing but harming the performance of the players. While there is no easy solution to fix the damage done on the MLS by the salary cap, the best starting point is to get rid of it. Allowing teams to pay as much as they want for players will allow for higher and more competitive salaries on the global scale, thus attracting talent from abroad and keeping homegrown players at home. It will also allow for equal salaries across a team's lineup, thus increasing the productivity of the players. The MLS has everything it needs to be a successful soccer league in the world. It has the fans, it has the following, it has the financial support. The only thing left to do is to get rid of the salary cap. Remove it, and the MLS will catapult into being one of the best leagues in the world.